Stranger at Home. That's what I should call my new film. He thought, somewhere between Amsterdam and Washington. He was on his way to visit Kamal Boullata, a Palestinian painter. They were friends, Kamal Boullata and Rudolf van den Berg. They had met 2 years before, when Rudolf was in Washington to show his film about Israel, Palestinians, Jews, etc. Now, he was sitting listening to the music from that old film. He thought it might help refresh his memory of their first meeting.
Welcome aboard Ransom Airlines Flight 1839, the Delta connection to Washington National Airport. Our estimated flight time is 1 hour. We're beginning our descent for Washington National Airport. Please recheck your seatbelts and make sure they are securely fastened. Thank you.
Auto brakes?
We'll put it on minimum.
Minimum check ignition flat stop. No smoking, no speed brakes. Automatic overhead.
Gears down on line. Speed for ignition.
Landing gear.
Down, green line.
Landing gear, check my side down to flaps. There you go. 100 above minimum. 50 feet. 30 feet.
Minimum. Minimum.
Four lights. Breakfast as normal.
The letter from Kamal Boullata had been a surprise. He wrote that in a couple of months' time, an exhibition of his graphic art was to be opened in Jerusalem, around the corner from his old school. For 18 years, Kamal had been living in exile, dreaming of his return to the holy city, Jerusalem. The filmmaker saw a subject in that desire of Kamal's, the myth of deliverance, the story of the return home, which is the dream of Jews as well as Palestinians. Yet however much Kamal had wanted to return, he had stayed in Washington, at least up till now.
God, have you been here long? Just yeah, we just arrived too.
Oh, there they are. Okay. How's your mother?
She's not good. She's much worse. I was born and raised in Jerusalem. I was 6 years old when half of Jerusalem fell under the control of Jewish troops, and as a result, my hometown became a divided city. In 1967, I happened to be in Beirut, Lebanon, when the 6 Days War broke out. And as a result of that war, the rest of Jerusalem fell under Israeli control. All attempts to return to Jerusalem at the time were denied by Israeli authorities on the grounds that I was out of the country when Jerusalem was conquered. Under the sponsorship then of the Quakers, I came to the United States right after the 6-7 war. It was in January 68. And I have been living in America ever since. More recently, I have been able to obtain American citizenship, which would allow me as an American citizen to visit my country of birth.
Rudolf had interpreted Kamal's letter as an invitation to come and convince him to return. But what arguments could he use to persuade Kamal to make the journey? What was there to offset Kamal's fears and the risks he would run? At most, there was the dream. That old film which had brought them together might provide a reason. At least it provided the background to the myth of returning home, the filmmaker thought.
For centuries, the Jew, usurer, and murderer of Christ had to suffer hatred, pogroms, and persecution. At the end of the 19th century, the Jewish bourgeoisie found an answer to this anti-Semitism: Zionism, the settlement of all Jews in Palestine. The idea of such an exodus was seen by many as a capitulation, a giving in to Jew-hating. But such considerations of principle were abruptly annihilated by Adolf Hitler. Demoniacally, the fate of all Jews was withdrawn from reason. Displaced Jews who had survived barbaric Europe sought refuge in Palestine. This refuge had to be won from the Palestinians, who considered the Jews to be Europeans, invaders.
This is such an exceptional scene, wallahi al-azim. It sums up so much.
Most of the Palestinians were driven out of the country or fled, but they are determined to return, and this determination makes Israel into a bastion, full of fear. Those in power reject any dialogue with the Palestinians. Israel does not want to know, but only reacts, out of mortal fear, as if somewhere there is another Auschwitz waiting.
I'm not trying to convince you that you're alive, but I think there must come one moment that you decide, whatever is the risk, I go there, because the longing is too strong.
The longing is too much. It's true. It goes on every day. When I sleep at night, I have dreams of being there. And I haven't been there in 18 years. It's a very difficult decision. I mean, it's a very, very difficult decision, Rudolf. I want to be there. I know that there are people who wanted to see my painting, and so I am sending some of my work over there to be shown.
Why not? Why is it?
But I don't think I can make myself do it.
But emotionally, you long for such a trip, I understood from your letter.
Yes, of course. Of course I do. Of course, Rudolf. This is the place where I was born, where I was raised. A place that has been denied to me.
But what makes you all of a sudden hesitate?
The reality of it.
Do you think he will ever go and live in Jerusalem?
If he would go and live, yes, I think he would go, but someone has to have nerves of iron to be able to bear the absurd laws that an Arab is subjected to. I don't know how much we can take it.
You think you will feel more at home there than here in Washington?
I don't know. I feel at home in Beirut. Islam.
Thanks.
You see, I think if I wasn't living in America, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. On the surface, it's very geometric, it's very cold perhaps, but the very content of what is being done has a direct relation perhaps to my childhood days in Jerusalem, when I used to stand right, in this vicinity of the mosque, and I used to copy all these different designs from the walls of the mosque. Stylistically, I may have borrowed something from America, but the very content of it derives from a collective memory of Arab Islamic heritage, if you like.
How do you feel people in the Arabic world will react to your coming exposition?
I have no idea whatsoever how Arabs will react to my work. It's all part of the risk I have taken.
What do you mean by risk?
Well, I mean, I could be very well designing things that would bring lots of money, or the Palestinian Revolution, if you like. My graphic art is composed of stylized Arabic script, sometimes from the Quran, other times from the Bible. Often, I borrow expressions that were first uttered by medieval Arab mystics who were once crucified as heretics. All these verbal expressions are here given a visual body that is part and parcel of our collective memory. When I refer to the concept of a collective memory, that comes from a very personal place in me.
Can you give an example of that?
Sure. My grandfather, for example, his name is Abraham, or Ibrahim in Arabic. One time I asked my mother, how come that his name is Abraham, And she sat back and told me a story of his birth. His mother and father were born and raised in Jerusalem in a Christian Orthodox family, and when they got married, they did not have any children. But they had some Muslim neighbors, and the neighbors advised them to go to Hebron, and if they pray at the tree of Abraham there, the oak tree, then God will give them a child. So my great-grandparents took their donkey and went from Jerusalem on their donkey all the way to Hebron to pray at the tree of Abraham. And the woman prayed around the tree, and she turned around the tree 7 times, as family legend tells us. And lo and behold, we learned later that she actually conceived, and when the child was born, he was named Abraham. I feel if I was destined to stay throughout my life in exile, This is the kind of story that keeps me alive. This is the kind of story that I want to carry to my children.
The filmmaker imagined that he now had an idea of what Kamal's dream was. But the reality for a Palestinian was harder to imagine. In an attempt to make the threat tangible, Kamal told a story, that of the American citizen Mike Mansour, jeweler and sheriff in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Just like Kamal, Mansour had also been born in Palestine, and early in 1984, he had gone back to visit his family on the West Bank in occupied territory.
Well, what happened is that I arrived in Durban the March the 3rd, and I stayed there for about a month. And on April the 2nd, 84, around 6:15 p.m., I was visiting my in-laws for dinner, and I got picked up from there by two plainclothesmen who carried weapons with them. And they took me in a car, and I wind up in the Zinzanas. So my story is not
the
very...
torture cell.
Yeah, the Zinzala is the torture chamber. And I kept thinking, I said, what am I and what am I doing here? And then they would ask me, they said, are you a PLO? And I said, no, I'm not a PLO. Just because I'm a Palestinian, it doesn't mean that I'm a PLO. And they kept asking me, they kept calling me Yasser Arafat and George Habash. And I said, what do you want me to be? And every time I make a remark, he'll slap me across my face. And at one time, one day, after they put a bag over my head, I kept insisting that they should take that stupid bag off because it was bothering my breathing, because I couldn't breathe very well.
It was a paper bag?
No. It was one of those canvas bags, you know, big one. And it's pretty heavy, and it goes all the way down. And every time I move my head, they'll hit me. They'll punch me. They'll kick me in the gut. And I kept insisting. I said, I can't handle this. Finally, I passed out. I literally just fell down and passed out because of my heart. And they kept me for about 8-10 hours. I don't remember the duration.
How long did this whole ordeal last?
I was there for 23 days. Yeah.
Without trial?
No, there was no trial, of course. There was, as a matter of fact, not only there was no trial, there was no charges brought up against me at all.
The very fact that the political enemies in the Middle East are not looking for a solution of the problem, but are loading guilt on each other's shoulders, in my opinion, is caused by this continued existence of the cliches. And in that way, political reality is petrified itself by these cliches. What I hope is that I don't have the illusion that we can put an end to cliches, but that we can maybe find a way of dealing with each other without cliches.
I have never dealt with them. I have seen how they are used. But I have never worn one of these hattas or headdress. As I know you would have never worn this yellow star. Knowing that there is a camera there too is...
Don't you think that if I go with you, that the camera could also be a protection to you?
Yes, that's... I have never heard of a Palestinian going with a camera there. But I guess it would be a great protection.
What's the worst that could happen?
The worst, the very, very worst, is that this would be taken as propaganda. My life. I sense a hidden danger every time I think of this film. This project which brought us together could very well be the very reason that may set us apart forever.
The appointment was made. At the end of May, Kamal was first to take his exhibition to Jordan and Kuwait. From there it was impossible to fly on direct to Israel, so Kamal and Rudolf were to meet up in Cyprus, in the monastery of Ayia Napa.
What are you expecting?
I don't know. I have anxieties and I have fears, as you would expect. But again, I think even though everything that I am left with is my memories, and if these personal memories may be destroyed, I feel something new has to be born.
When you speak about fears, it can be physical fear.
That is not the kind of fear I'm talking about. It's a certain anxiety, as I say, for that moment between the destruction, perhaps, of a dream or of a memory and the beginning of something new. What is that new thing? I don't know. But I know something is going to happen in my life.
So the core of the matter, your purpose, is to destroy your own memories.
No. The core of the matter is to go through the experience with you.
Why with me?
Well, because you were the person to offer this opportunity. And it took me some time to decide, and I have decided to go through it with you. As a visual artist and as a Jew.
That's essential to you.
Very much so. I began to feel a Palestinian only when people started pointing at me that I am one. After 1967, the whole need for identity had to be re-examined. And in my own research for that, I have discovered that a Palestinian means to be a Jew on an existential level.
But that's a feeling or a philosophy?
I feel a Jew today. I look at this irremediable blue of the sea, and for the first time, I think how indifferent is the sea. I can't help but think of how another people at one time who were made homeless had to cross the sea with guns to conquer a land and claim it their own. They crossed this very sea before me right now, which tonight I will cross.
An 8-hour trip to Haifa on a Cypriot boat. Israeli officials checked all the passengers, standing patiently in the queue. Routine work. Suddenly, Kamal and Lily are taken aside and led away immediately. Nervous hours for the film crew, who hadn't forgotten the story of the sheriff from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Rudolf began to have his doubts about the whole enterprise. Felt naive that he hadn't foreseen this possibility. But he had forgotten something. There was a war going on.
In this moment, I feel physical fear approaching the land of Israel.
Well, I think it's funny. I really think it's funny. I mean,
it shocked me the moment that you were separated from all the other passengers.
Well, I felt they are paranoid, and they have. It's been a history of hundreds of years of paranoia. So this is only very.
How do you mean centuries old history of paranoia?
I mean, Jews have been paranoid all throughout history. They build a state, which is a ghetto. They can't but be paranoid. So it's normal procedure.
But
this is what I'm expecting. This is what I have been expecting.
But didn't you feel humiliated?
No, I can't feel humiliated. I'm above this, Rudolf, really.
Lily, does it scare you?
No, I thought this is something we have to go through. It has to finish.
You're prepared with this kind of thing?
No, I was not really prepared. I thought this was a Greek ship. No, I was really surprised, especially that the guy The man on the top of the stairs was like fat, with big mustache, beautiful.
I mean, can you imagine you getting your monthly salary at the end of the month because you check in bags of people, especially Palestinians, coming back home? I was feeling the other guy was somebody to pity.
Didn't you feel anger?
No. I'm expecting worse, I tell you. Whatever comes, it's okay too.
You still think it's worthwhile going to Jerusalem?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. I can't wait. I can't wait to go home.
كيف حالك؟ أنا ما تغلبتش. لا والله. شفتي كويس؟ يلا الحمد لله على السلامة. عليت. وين أغراضك؟
هي بدي أقول هلا الموضوع الأسمر من هون.
Kamal and Lily got into Israel without further problems. Jews may have been paranoid for centuries, but now they had a respectable country and wanted to keep up appearances.
عنصرية
كمان مرة ما بتضحكش بعدين.
لا ما نحضر.
قولي له.
This is intimidation. This.
By whom?
Yes.
في السماء ماذا في الأرض أبانا ذا
1902 عيسى ابن يوسف بولاطة 1929 أندريا ابن يوسف بولاطة 1932 جميل ابن يوسف بولاطة 1934 أسعد كمال يوسف بولاطة 1942
هوني كانت أمي تحط أغراض عتيقة، هوني كنا نحط السطل تبع القش والمساء. الله شو محلى الأوسد. شايف التراشي إيش بقصد؟
الألوان.
إيه. من هون بنطلع على الأوضة اللي ولدت فيها. Before I left Washington, my mother asked me to pay a visit to my father's grave in Jerusalem. As I walk here, I think of how much my mother would have wanted to be here with me, in this familiar light and air of Gethsemane. But I know she has no energy. She has been too ill for too long. I was relieved when my Aunt Melia, mother's sister, offered to accompany me to the graveyard of my father's grave.
إلك ولأخوتك الله يرحمها شايف كان هون الصليب هيك طالع مكسرين. كأنها تفرجينا إنه روحها بترفرف. صارت الظهر أطهرت.
حنا 1841 عيسى ابن حنا 1865 وحنا ابن عيسى 1886 وجريس ابن عيسى 1895 بعدين عيسى ابن حنا 1924 بعدين إلياس ابن حنا 1926 عيسى ابن جورجي 1929 وعيسى ابن يوسف 1929 أندريا ابن يوسف 1932 جميل ابن يوسف 1934 أسعد كمال ابن يوسف 1942 هذه فهل
When I left Jerusalem last time, that was November 1966. I had an exhibit in Lebanon, and I stayed in Beirut for some time. And when the war broke out in 1966, I couldn't stay longer because I didn't have a visa to stay in Lebanon. At the time, I have tried to apply through the Red Cross from Beirut to be able to come back to Jerusalem. But then there were deadlines for filling up the application that by the time my application arrived, it couldn't come to the Israeli authorities to actually be able to get it through. And then I just gave up. At the time, I started writing to some friends in America, and I got a grant to go and study there for a year. So I thought I'll go there for a year and then be able to come back. So what I'm here to ask you, do I have a right to come back to Jerusalem?
I have my answer. I wanted to ask, did you ever make an application or did you receive any answer in writing?
No.
If you say that you haven't made any application, so there will be no answer in writing. Now, your second question, my second question is, you left the country at the age of what?
I was 24, I think.
24.
November 66.
You were a major, not a minor.
That's right.
That time. Do you still have a family here? Father, mother, brothers?
No, they are spread all over the world.
Good. No application was made, no application was refused.
Okay, who...
Now, let me continue. Now, as you have no family here, as you're a major, not a minor, your application will be dealt as any application made by a foreigner to enter Israel.
But as a foreigner?
Yes, yes.
Okay, in your opinion, what are my chances to be able to get a permanent residency?
I haven't got all the details I wanted. I want to know
I can tell you now.
Your family status. I want to know.
I'm married and I have a wife and children.
If you have any criminal record, I want to know what are the means at your disposal. I want to know what kind of a man. Can you contribute to that country? I haven't got the answer to these questions. So I can't give you any answer to these. If you put one of the things that surprises me is that you've waited 17 years and not made an application.
But 17 years of wanting.
And now you're coming, somehow I understand it is so, complaining why you were not approved to enter.
May I ask you a technical question, please?
Yes.
If I understand it well, you make no difference between Arabs or any other foreigners?
All applications for foreigners are dealt in that same committee.
But, for example, if I would try to immigrate here and I show you my Dutch Jewish birth certificate.
Jewish, then in that case, not the law of entry will guide your entrance, but the law of return. And regarding the law of return, there is other criterions, but again, somehow the same criterions. I would ask a Jew the same questions. Your health, police record, if you are married, what are your means? Almost the same criterions apply.
So in other words, Israel does not...
Israel is not different. No country of the world.
No, I'm asking about Israel.
I'm only
asking about Israel.
I want to show that the criterions in Israel are not different from other countries of the world.
No, but you said there are criteria for Jews, but not for
natives. If you make
natives.
an application...
You will give me an answer in writing.
I said I will not put the reasons why it has been approved or why it has been denied, but you will get an answer.
One more question. Do you allow that for me it's much easier to come and immigrate into this country than for Mr. Boullata?
As a Jew?
Yes.
As a Jew, yes. I told you there is a law of return which says that every Jew has the right to return to Israel.
I don't have any family here whatsoever.
You don't have to family. You have to show that you are a Jew and that you want to settle in Israel. Jews in the world have one country. Gentiles have 156 countries in the world.
Ground is changed. Here there used to be cafes, you know, cafes here and cafes here. And there used to be people sitting on both sides of this space.
كيف انت؟ تمام امتى جيت؟ زمان لكم؟
Big one? Or for children? For the wife? Come, speak English? Come, ليش؟ هدية إذا بتلبس تاخذ هدية مشان أصحابك.
بوجعني أنا من القدس بس بتوجع كثير أجي على القدس بشوف هيك أشياء بس مش عليك يعني ما تحسب إنه أنا بلومك بس أنا بتوجع لهالشيء. فرش في الشرموطة.
Around the corner from his old school, Kamal stood among his stylized memories. Would the Palestinians recognize his work, or had he become American, a stranger at home?
As far as the law is concerned, you are an alien. You don't belong here. You don't have a right as an entitlement to return here. There is no such thing in Israeli law. There is the law of return. If you are Jewish, you have a right to return here. But you, just because you are from Jerusalem, does not mean you have a right to return here.
But I was born here. My family has been living here.
Irrelevant.
My whole family has been born here.
Irrelevant. You are an absentee. As far as the law is concerned, you are an absentee. You do not have an Israeli identity card. See, in Jerusalem, we are not citizens.
What are you then?
We are residents. My identity card gives me the right to be a resident here. And if I become a resident somewhere else, then they will argue that I have no more rights here. You see, if this is going to be a Jewish place, as Jewish as France is French, they have to do something about demography. So people like us who are not Jews are a problem. From a demographic point of view, the policy is to increase the Jewish population and to decrease the non-Jewish population, obviously. So what you are trying to obtain is just the status of an East Jerusalem non-Jewish Arab resident.
We are working here, 3 Dutch people, Israeli production manager. Several times when we are going to places like this, you ask me to leave the Israeli people out of the crew, as if they are first-class crew members and second-class crew members. Please, I feel very upset about this.
I see. Well, if you feel upset about excluding one of the members of our crew, of your crew, can you imagine how a whole nation feels about being excluded from their own country?
What's your reason to ask me to exclude them?
How would these people who are hosting us feel that I'm the son of Jerusalem is bringing in a crew that is Dutch with an Israeli, that would be talking in Hebrew? Where do you want me to stand? Coming here as a tourist, having to stay in a hotel, is a very, very strange feeling. But it's great to be home. And I want to be here.
Have you talked to any Israeli authorities in Washington about this?
I'm planning to.
But you have not yet? No application made?
No. I'm here now, and I want to stay here.
How do you see, if you talk about a Palestinian art movement, how do you see the relationship between your presence here and the situation of the artists that are here, who are in a quite different...
I feel that I have been living a very luxurious life and a very protected life. I have never had anybody say, do this or don't do that, or this is forbidden or this is not forbidden. And this is, in any culture, is something which is very normal. And for me to begin to read and learn that somebody, if he uses the 4 colors of the Palestinian flag in one corner of the painting, may become a reason for investigation, is absolutely absurd. And they think this is like any other country. They don't know that it's the whole formula is so democratic, but what is going in there is a fascist way of dealing with the native population of this country. There is no place in history where means have looked so democratic and where the inside policies have been so undemocratic. Because what is right for an Israeli is not right for a Palestinian.
Very, very strong way of suppression of human rights here, and many things which shouldn't be done. But to use the word fascist, I would really hesitate to use the word.
I would ask you, what is fascist to you, Rudolf?
Well, it's a word, in my opinion, which is so much abused that it's hardly possible anymore to use it.
I can begin to tell you stories, if you have the time, about specific cases of people who would be detained, human beings who would be tortured, who have done nothing.
You don't clarify things when you call this society fascist, because then the real danger of fascism is enlarged by it.
What would you call a native population that are being surrounded, that are being cut by roads, that are being frozen in small little communities, that are being separated? Settlements are going into this society. Towers, if you go and see it visually, towers with soldiers around a camp. I am a human being, And the suffering of the Jews is part of my history, because I am a human being. To see these towers around camps that have been sealed, what do you want me to call this? It's for the first time that I see these monuments with my naked eyes. I have only seen it in films about Jewish suffering.
You see, I think what's happening now to the Palestinians in Israel is also a consequence of the weird policy of the Palestinian Liberation Organization. I think the PLO has been supported in a dream which deprives them of a real opportunity to create a solution to the problem.
I think you are mistaken. The PLO outside has nothing to do with the policies of everyday living here. Don't ask me about that. But I can pick anybody on the street for you. Anybody. You go and ask them what kind of life they have been living. How many brothers they have in jail. How many times they have been arrested. What it means to go from one village to another. What it means to do all these things.
What's the origin of this very bad Israeli policy?
If we go to the origin, we can go back to Adam and Eve, I mean.
Wouldn't allow any opposition.
This is only in the service of the Israeli. Let's go, you and I, to a settlement tomorrow. And you will see whether they would allow me to step in there. There is a gun in my face if I go and step in that place. And if I do go in, they could kill me. It's their land. What do you call this? Democracy?
These paintings, exhibited in the same gallery as Kamal's work, had landed the painter in jail for 6 months. A whole story in itself, and one which will have to wait until Kamal and Rudolf have dealt with the issues of fascism, terrorism, racism, anti-Semitism, and imperialism.
But isn't it too easy to say it's all caused by Israeli imperialism? Isn't that too easy?
I did not say it's all caused by Israeli imperialism.
It was implied.
What I said is life of a community, whether it was Christian or Muslim or Jewish, is a community that contributes together in terms of growing like a tree with different branches, but having a same root. Not saying we are reunifying the city, when in fact what seems to be done here is to empty the city of people, to make it like a museum, and to look at it from the outside. This is killing life in the city. This is not preserving life. To preserve life is to let people live as they want. This very thing right here, for example, where I told you there was life around this, there were fountains running, there were many more doves. Now it is empty, now there is no water, now there is PLO. That's the best these people can make, is open souvenir shops and write PLO.
But if you dislike touristic culture, which you see everywhere in the world, at one hand it's sad for traditional culture, but at the other hand it seems to be a natural development by now. It's tragic, but it's like that everywhere in the world.
It is natural development.
Pardon?
I do not think it is a natural development. A natural development is an organic development that grows.
Industrial development is also natural development.
In the Western world, we are not the Western world. Israel is the Western world. And you are talking the way Israel talks.
Well,
I am born in Warsaw, Poland in 1933. It means that I was 6.5 years old when Germany conquered Poland. So I passed 5.5 years under Hitler, very simply. And this included many things: Warsaw Ghetto, a concentration camp from which I escaped from my mother, trying to hide as a non-Jew, and then Bergen-Belsen for nearly 2 years. And it was after this that I came here in '45. All right, Kamal. Well, what were your impressions here in Jerusalem?
It's been very, very depressing.
Well, what I want to tell you that it is naturally depressing. You left a city which was under Jordanian rule, but still under an Arab rule. You came after 17 years of conquest to a city in which, like in all conquered territories, every attempt is being made to deny that it was ever an Arab city and Arab center of culture. But there are places which are very much worse than Jerusalem. I really asked...
Like where, for example?
Like a village which once in '48 had 10,000 inhabitants, and now there is nothing, not a stone. This is worse.
Yes.
This is worse.
But Jerusalem has become less than a city. It has become like an annex, or like a kasbah.
It has become a ghetto for Palestinians. Zionism, or the great majority of Zionism, wants to do to non-Jews what once the anti-Semites did to Jews. The aim of the regime in Jerusalem is to put Palestinians into a ghetto. It is as simply as this.
And this is what is very depressing.
Yes,
but
which is horrible. But let me tell you something from Jewish experience. Ghetto is less bad than total destruction.
But is there anything that could be uplifting, that could give us hope?
Yes.
How?
The Israeli,
what?
Well, the Israeli inflation of 400 or 500%.
That's only hope.
Not only hope.
Not
only hope. Kamal, whether we are friends or not, Zionism must inevitably fall down, not only because of its injustice, and you know that every unjust system sooner or later collapses, but also because it flies into the face of reality.
It's unbelievable. I have read about it so many times. I have heard people tell me things, but it's not like experiencing it.
I know. Here I may allow myself a word of critique about your own people. They are weak on facts.
They are what?
Weak on facts.
Meaning
on facts. Meaning it is not difficult, like you are doing film on many others, to throw before your own people, let us say, thousands of millions of facts of the oppression of the conquest. Not slogans, but basic facts. I tell you and your people, you have to struggle, both by seeing the situation as it is and by doing everything, first of all, to know it, not to be surprised.
In the person of Professor Israel Shachak, Rudolf had lined up heavy artillery to bring Kamal's increasing indignation into proportion. By special request, Professor Shachak explains the paradox once again.
The Israeli Jews who speak in Hebrew and who live in the country for a long period or who are born here are a society. It is not a question how the society was established, but it is now a society. They speak a language, they have a common behavior in many things. And this can perhaps answer a question, why I am here. One reason is, of course, that this is the best place to fight Zionism. But there's also a second reason. since this is my society, with my language, with my basic behavior, I like to be with my people. I am against them, but I like to be with them.
Occupied territory, the Gaza Strip. The teacher Fathi Rabin, now in jail for making the paintings, used to live in this refugee camp. Although filming here was forbidden, Kamal insisted on visiting the painter's family. He was willing to take the risk.
بيتكم هون؟
هذا أم فتحي.
والله أنا مبسوط. أنا سمعت عن فتحي لما كنت بأمريكا.
والله كل يوم كانوا يجينا كبسيات في الليل علي. كل يوم كل يوم كبسيات علي في الليل يجوا. والله عشان هذا هيك الواحد. بعدين عشان مجلة لقيوا مجلة عنده. مجلة. لقيوا عنده هنا واخذوه في الليل.
أخذوا بالليل.
يجوا كبسيات.
كل واحد فنان فلسطيني
ويطلعوا.
أنا هو واحد فنان.
لكن ما كانش يخاف منهم.
ولا هذا مو واحد بس.
والله ما كان يهاب منهم ولا يخاف.
Hello. 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 This is Rudolf van den Berg speaking from Holland. Yes. I would ask you if it's possible to make a filmed interview with you, please.
No, our policy is not to give interviews to TV people from abroad.
As I understand, you are a member of the military government in Gaza.
I'm the head of the office of the coordinator of government activities in Gaza and in the West Bank as well. But I have to ask you not to quote me and not to refer to me the information that I'll give you, and to refer it to sources in the military government.
But what I like to be informed about is the imprisonment of Fathi Rabin, the painter, exactly. And well, all the information I have it from Al Fajr, the Palestinian weekly. So I don't know if the information which this weekly gives is correct. So I would like to know what was the official reason to imprison this man.
وعن الغرام 300,000 شهر والله ظلمهم.
كيف دبرتوا حالكم؟
ما دبرناش ما حطيناش هذول بدهم يحبسوا شهر إذا ما حطيناش.
شهر زيادة.
بس هو بيقول لي أنا بدي شهر.
Well, the facts are that Fathi Rabin was imprisoned not because of painting, because we are not in a habit of putting into prison painters just for painting some paint. The paintings of Fathi Rabin were distributed in tens of thousands copies throughout the Gaza Strip and the West Bank, and they were used as a propagandist means to call the people to get out to the streets and throw stones and demonstrate and break the law. Did you, by any chance, see any one of those paintings?
Yes, I did see them.
So I think that you can understand what I mean.
لما تقعد هيك قديش بتسمح لك تقعد بالزيارة؟
نص ساعة.
نص ساعة.
بلحق يشوف حد يشوف. والله ساعة بهالسجن كان.
قال ايش بقول؟ والله عندي 6 اشهر هذول فسحه.
لانه الاولاد جوا عاملين له هلوله ومبسوطين عليه، يقولوا له خليها زياره، رسم لنا محارم ورسم لنا على المكاتب.
هو جوات السجن شو عم بيعمل؟ برسم كمان؟
مبسوط هو
مبسوط جوات السجن؟ لا عارف
بقول بس بفكر فيك وكنتوا تعيشوا، قلت رزقنا الله ولا تهتم.
طب انت هلا مثلا لما يطلع راح يطلع وراح تحتفلوا
لازم،
وبده يجي ثاني يوم ويبدا يحط الالوان ويقول لك قاعد بدي ارسم انا، شو بتقولي له انت؟
بدي اقول له بدناش الاشي اللي بيضر، اما زي هذول يرسم.
طب هدول ما بضروا؟
لا بضروش، اما بدنا الحاجه السياسيه اللي رافع علامه النصر والطرش.
هذه بتخوف هذه.
ايوه
هذه لا، اما هذا
فاذا بدك تقولي له يرسم.
يرسم، بس بدناش اياه يرسم اي حاجه بتضر معي.
يرسم، وانا
ما اجيب قرش الا من الرسم.
انا بشجعه يرسم زي هذا.
انت طيب خلاص عظيم، طالما انت موافق.
هي مش موافقه.
لا انا مش موافق، انا بروح عني، انت جاهل الزعيم يعني. وبعرفش يعني بقيت يعني ظل لع من الصبح للعشاء يشتغل يرسم.
وكانوا يهددوه غير مرات انه ما تعمل
كثير
كانوا يهددوه. شو يقولوا له؟
يقولوا له بنحبسك بنغربك، يعني ما نخليكاش في المنطقه هان، نطلعك برا.
مين اللي يقول له هذا؟
هم المسؤولين
اليهود.
الحاكم العسكري بقول له قرحنا.
Personally, I cannot see any reason for arresting somebody who's making paintings, even if there's, let's say, this nationalistic symbols in it. And if crowds are incited by it, the men who painted the paintings cannot be held responsible for that, in my opinion.
Well, we disagree in this point.
هذا هيك ضروري جدا انه نضلنا
صامدين. باذن الله صامدين.
ابن الطفل هذا عمره 5 سنوات. بقول لك اخوي الصغير طفل عمره 7 سنوات طلع من البيت وطلع برا وضربوه بالرصاص. لازم اخذ ثار اخوي يوما ما، لازم انزل في منظمه التحرير واخذ ثار اخوي واموت زي اخوي. طفل هذا وحرر فلسطين، فداء الوطن سهيل الحمد لله.
انت الحين مطول هون في البلد يعني؟
بدي ابقى للجمعه الجاي.
لا يعني في القدس هان.
بس للجمعه الجاي
بدك تسافر على امريكا؟
بعدين بدي ارجع على امريكا، بس بدي اقدم طلب لارجع على القدس.
هذا يعني تسكن؟
طبعا.
شخافش احنا من بلدنا مهما كان.
بقول انا لو عنده ماده كويسه كان هو طلع على امريكا عشان هيك.
بدناش يا اخي.
لا ما بدناش امريكا.
As I understood, he has a wife and 7 children, and I was told that they have nothing to live on, and he's in prison for 6 months or so.
First of all, I think that he had to bear in mind those facts when he did those things. Number 2, they are not a free democratic country. Some people, including you, including myself maybe, would like the situation to be somewhat else. But the situation right now is that the Gaza Strip and the West Bank are under military law.
Okay, I thank you very much for this information. Goodbye.
still wonder what's stronger when I'm walking around in this country. My fear or my anger.
That's your problem.
But you agree with me, I hope, that it's not fascism.
Rudolf, what kind of a state brings in a community, seals it with a wall and builds towers around it? What does this kind of a tower remind you of, you as a Jew?
But it might, well, maybe it's a prison or...
It is not.
How do you know?
This is a community of Palestinians that have been living here in a refugee camp called the Kalandia camp.
But opposition here is tolerated. There's a Jewish opposition against the way Palestinians are treated.
Yes, and this is only for the Jews. But if a Palestinian raises his voice for any single right of the most minimal right, he would not be tolerated. This is a state that treats non-Jews as cattle. They seal them in camps. They observe every single individual going up or down the street. This is a police state for the non-Jews. For the Jews who live here and for the Jews who come as tourists, it's not that.
Don't you think it has something to do with the stubborn and blind politics of the surrounding countries?
I don't think so.
But don't you think the Jews have the right to build their own state?
They have the right to live in a country where they would treat others as equals, but not others putting them into concentration camps like this one.
But what's a realistic solution to this catch-22?
You are asking me that?
Yes.
Why don't you ask the soldier up there?
He's just a soldier. You are an intellectual.
Oh, really? So you want an intellectual answer?
I think we are in need of people with common sense.
Common sense right here, when you can see this camp in front of your eyes, and you see this tower right here.
But I cannot believe that the refugee camp is surrounded by barbed wire and towers like this.
Well, go see for yourself, Rudolf.
I don't like this kind of things, but...
Just try.
Okay, I try.
Please.
English?
No, not speak English.
What is it behind the wire? Is the prison?
We see. See the children. They know the stone.
But what is it behind? Because we don't know.
What?
What is here behind the wire? What are you watching here?
על מה אנחנו צופים? איך אומרים אבנים? שלא יזרקו אבנים. אבנים. שלא יזרקו עלינו אבנים.
But is it the stone? But is it
Stone.
But is it
It's true stone.
It looks like a prison.
Children. Yeah.
It's a school.
Yes, in school. In the two school.
But if it's a school, why do you have to watch like this?
The children throw the stone.
They throw stones.
taxi.
Okay. So, well, I came back to Washington because I felt a little bad about a few things that happened.
You had an idea, a very specific idea of what you wanted to do, I felt. And somehow there were times when I felt I had to fit within that idea. And I was trying to explain to you.
But try to be clear in what you reproach me.
You sometimes expect to put so much in this, and yet what comes out is only you. Because this is your film, and this is my own loss, my own frustration, that I'm willing to go through it.
Yeah, but if I wouldn't have taken a distance from your point of view, I'm sure that the film would have been considered as pro-Palestinian propaganda.
See, that is your problem.
No, but I always try to protect you because you said the thing I fear the most, on this very spot, the thing I fear the most is that my life would be considered as propaganda. And that's what I try to avoid by being, let's say, the devil's advocate.
Yeah. Which means?
Which means that as soon as you convince me, let's go to the Ministry of Interior, then you should feel that this is sincere and that it's not just meant to demonstrate that Israeli politics is discriminating.
It is sincere. I cannot prove it any better, Rudolf. I am as sincere there as I'm sincere here, and if you don't believe it, that's fine. I don't...
Of course I do. But it makes it propaganda if people feel that it's a setup just for the film. If we don't have the proof...
I don't care if there is a proof or not.
But in Jerusalem you said, I want to re-immigrate. You said it on the press conference.
I said that... I did not say I want to re-immigrate.
I want to come back, you said.
I said I want to come back. Okay.
Only when it's Palestine again?
I want to go back. And I still say I want to go back. Whether it is Palestine or not Palestine, that's another story. Yeah. And I'm not saying to you that I'm comfortable here. I'm not comfortable here. I'm not going to be comfortable there.
No, I think I start to understand.
If you want me to be honest with you, I don't care whether you understand or not, Rudolf. I care to be sincere, and I feel that we have a certain thing going on between us as people, as two individuals. You happen to be a Jew, I happen to be a Palestinian. And cliches are not the works of artists.
I think it must be very, well, it's a very bad moment, I think, for filming. Because I understood that your mother is very, very ill.
That's right. She wanted very much to see you this time. But she can't, she simply can't. And she's in bed right now. She can't move. She hardly can talk.
Did she ever express a feeling about the fact that she will be buried in a foreign country?
No, she's resigned to that. I think she must have thought of it the moment she left there. She has resigned herself to that a long time ago. That this is part and parcel of the whole issue of being Palestinian.
Lord, have mercy, Lord, have mercy, Lord, have mercy.
Blessed is our God, always now and ever, and unto ages of ages. Amen.
Amen. Holy God, holy mighty, holy immortal, have mercy on us. Holy God, holy mighty, holy immortal, have mercy on us.
Glory to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, now and
ever, and unto ages of ages. Amen.
اسمك ليأتي ملكوتك في السماء ما في الأرض أبانا الذي في السماء ليتقدس